YouTube, hello again. Welcome to the live stream and welcome to a most important and pivotal time for the A's and their past, their present, their future in the city of Oakland. I know that over the years you've heard about the A's and their efforts and trying to build a new ballpark and trying to get to the next step of getting out of the Coliseum, which has been their only home in the East Bay since they moved out here from Kansas City. And there may be some fatigue factor setting in. There may be some complacency about, what has gone on even in the last several weeks and months. But I'm telling you, right now is the time to pay attention to everything that's going on. This team has never been closer to ultimately getting that perfect home at Howard Terminal. At the same time, I don't think they've ever been this close to relocation. I mean, think about it. When else has the team gone out and visited a Las Vegas, talked about other places? That's a serious thing going on right now. So complacency being bad is the main point of this video, but I also want to spell a few things out in just a second. First, let me ask that since you're here and if you like this discussion, this content, Howard Terminal, the A's, I talk about Bay Area sports, a lot of the Sharks, other stuff, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I would really appreciate that. I hate coming on here and promoting it, but let's be honest, I do want this to be a platform and I do want it to grow. And the way that works is if you like this video and if you subscribe to the channel, everything will greatly benefit. So just getting back to the main point here, I really do feel like the next day, the next couple days, the next week, the next couple weeks could really determine where all of this goes. Because at this point, I know the fallback has always been, well, they'll just probably settle down and play another 5-10 years at the Coliseum. We'll figure it out down the road. That is not the case anymore. It's going to be a new ballpark or a new city, and it doesn't seem like there's any middle ground because we've gotten this far, we've gotten to this point. Now, tomorrow is going to be huge because for the very first time, we're going to truly find out the distance between the city of Oakland and the A's in terms of what the A's put out with their term sheet, which was conceived many months ago and publicly released in late April. It's been talked about with the Alameda County Board of Supervisors. It's been talked about now with the City Council. They had an informational meeting on this, I want to say maybe about 10 days ago at this point. But we've arrived now where the city is going to come back with essentially their own version of what they'd like to do. And they understand what the A's initial asks are and that the A's have put together what they say is the best offer they can give. And now they're going to try and rework through some things and present something in return, almost like a rebuttal. But I also want to say, too, I'm aware that both sides, since that informational meeting, have been going back and forth really hard and really progressively to try and button down some of the gaps that exist. And I'll talk about them, what they are here in just a second. But the point is that tomorrow is going to give us such an indication of how close or how far or how bridgeable that gap is between these two sides. I'm not saying that tomorrow is going to determine an end result, but tomorrow seems almost more important than an actual vote that would take place on July 20th. I say that because if this looks workable tomorrow, you'd have to think that the vote is pretty much in the bag, knock on wood. If things are far apart tomorrow, it clearly shows that a vote is not likely and that two sides can't agree on something and that it needs more negotiation, it needs more work, and who knows, like I said, if that gap is bridgeable. So in baseball terms, what does this mean? It's going to be like a 3-0 count tomorrow or an 0-2 count tomorrow. Now, I say that. You can still strike out on a 3-0 count. Not on that count, in that at-bat. You could still strike out. Conversely, you could also hit a grand slam if the bases are loaded and the count's 0-2. So what? You just need that one pitch to swing and hit over the fence. So I'm not saying that after tomorrow it's decided, it's one way or the other, and that's it. I'm just saying we're going to get a really big lean in figuring out where this goes from here, what comes next, how easy or difficult things will be. Now, the sticking points, I talked about those earlier. It was very clear to me in this informational meeting, which again, I thought was also valuable because there was no vote, but you could sense the interest level. You could sense the, kind of the mood of the city council. There's 8 voters on this and where they stand essentially right now. And one of the things, well, let me just get to this. 3 of the things that were kind of sticking points, were this. 1 infrastructure financing district versus 2. What the A's want are 2, 1 for Howard Terminal and that land of 55 acres, and the rest is for the Jack London area. They're calling it the Jack London Infrastructure Financing District. And both of those are generated to create property tax revenue off of sales, right? So if you're an existing owner of property there, your tax doesn't go up. When it sells and that property is valued higher, that property tax goes to paying the A's back for infrastructure that they're going to front the cost for. Infrastructure to improve the area surrounding Howard Terminal, raising the site 4 feet for sea level rise, improving overpasses, underpasses of train tracks, streetlights, everything that needs work in that area. And by the way, if you've been to that area, if you've walked the neighborhood, you truly understand what just basic infrastructure improvements are necessary for the area, for safety of anybody around there. I mean, this is not a question of, well, is it luxury or not? No, this is like already a necessity, and it certainly is one if you're going to put a ballpark there. So going back to the sticking points, it seems like the city is more interested in just having 1 infrastructure financing district, which would be Howard Terminal, but that would also cut the total revenue of this project back. I don't know how that affects, completing everything else. I don't know the answer to that. I do know it's several $100 million short of what the project needs as it was laid out by the Oakland A's. So you can clearly see that would be an issue right there. Now, there are other ways maybe to bridge the gap if it's 1 IFD. How does the county step in? How does the state of California potentially step in? I don't know. So again, I'm not saying it's a done deal if that's cut out for the A's. They certainly have said that and Dave Cavell was on our program pregame live. We need both IFDs. That's been very established for the current plans. So now that the city wants to come back, well, how do you plan on doing this then? And that's the point I'll make later here. If you're going to present something back to the A's, back to the community, something you want to vote on, it should at least be as thoughtful and as executable as the A's original plans. I'm sorry, let me get back to sticking points. Number 1 is the IFDs, 2 versus 1. Point number 2 that was seemed to be a little bit turbulent is the A's want to sign a 20-year non-relocation agreement. The city of Oakland is saying, well, if we're going to get you in this IFD, which is 40 years, close to it, why aren't you signing a 40-year non-relocation agreement? All right, so that's, again, another sticking point, hopefully something that can be negotiated. You would think. Now, the A's have said because they're privately financing this, it's a little bit different than what other teams in other situations have been like. That seems to me like something that can be figured out. I'm not saying which way it goes or how it goes. Or the A's want to stay. And if you're going to get the new ballpark and you're going to get it on, terms that are beneficial for everybody, it seems like you would want to stay. But I digress. I'm not really sure how that goes. I just want to point that out, that's one thing that's in the middle of these two sides. And then the last one is also equally important. It's been talked about quite a bit, and that is affordable housing. How much? Location? What's the definition of affordable? There are laws surrounding this for the city of Oakland, I believe even in the state of California, but there are government laws surrounding new projects, what you have to provide. And so, again, I'm not going to jump in the middle of an opinion on that or how to figure that out. That's not my expertise at all, but I'm just saying that's a third and most important issue right now is for this project and the amount of housing they want to build, how much affordable housing goes along with it and the definitions of it. So again, just to summarize the 3 sticking points, 1 versus 2 IFDs, that's what's to watch out for. The non-relocation agreement of somewhere between 20 and 45 years. And lastly, the affordable housing that is still to be determined. So all of that being now understood, we get back to the question of how much of a gap will there be? How much can that be bridged? Can these two sides figure it out? Are there other things after this that if it isn't a quick jump over the gap, how else can you get this done? I don't know the answers to that. And I honestly, I'm interested to see. I'm really interested to see what the city of Oakland comes back with. Now, after they've heard the A's side, they've met with the A's, they understand this a lot more. And now what is your rebuttal? And let me just say this. It does feel like in watching some of the meetings and the informational sessions with the county and the city, it feels like most elected government officials have been a bit behind the curve in the education of what the A's want and what's going on here and what's being brought to the table. And I'm honestly not going to blame them for that. I'm not going to blame the A's for that. I'm not going to blame one side or the other. This is straight up observation. It does seem like the government officials they've been educated, like, as we watch this process go. It doesn't seem like any of them really went out to do their own background on this, or, I mean, come on, they've had to have known that this was being talked about, discussed, in the works. I don't know. I'm also not going to say it's their job to go seek this information out if it's not directly presented to them. But the point is, the A's have come with literally every question answered. They've brought everything, publicly in these meetings to the table. There's no question that stumps the A's. And when I say the A's, I'm really talking about Dave Kaval. They'll ask him something in return. He's never of the response of, well, I don't know, we need to figure that out. He's got all his T's crossed and his I's dotted. I'm just saying, on the other side, it seems like City Council, Alameda County Board of Supervisors, they've been the ones, they've asked great questions. But a lot of times they're asking things that I'm already saying, I know the answer to that. How do I know the answer to that? And I'm just, a sports TV guy. But that's fine. I'm only saying that. Look, I'm only saying that to kind of explain this whole process of maybe why there was some friction, some tension, why when the county brought this up, why when the city brought this up, they weren't instantly like red hot on it, Maybe it's taken some time to warm up to this, for them to see this, for them to really grasp the ideas, how this would work, the benefits for Oakland and the county of Alameda in the long term. It really does feel like this has been an educational process for them. This is not something where they knew everything and we're just here to talk about it, debate, and then vote. This has seemed like an educational process. All right, so I don't mean for this video to go on for a lot longer, but I do want to close it out by saying this. And who knows? The 8 voters on the council, maybe most of them, if not all of them, maybe they've already decided what they would vote on this, what it would look like. I'm not even saying that the term sheet 2.0 is done yet. I think that's coming out tomorrow. But I would have to think that most voters already have a pretty good idea of which way they're going to swing on the vote. But my main thoughts for the Oakland City Council members right now are this. If you don't support the Howard Terminal ballpark and the project surrounding this, how exactly do you see this district, this part of Oakland, looking in 25 years? I'm talking about the plot of land that is Howard Terminal, hasn't been used by maritime cargo ships since 2013, has a value that's, I think, $29 million right now, and would be something like $7 billion if this project goes through, the tax revenue that could come in. Anyway, if you say no to this project, how do you see Howard Terminal in 25 years? How do you see Jack London Square in 25 years? How do you see the west side of Oakland in 25 years? Do you see it better? How? Do you even see it different? Or do you just see the same exact thing as we see here in 2021? My next question for them would be, how exactly do you see the entire city of Oakland and the region of the East Bay and Alameda County? How do you see all of that being better off by 2030 if you vote no on this? How do you see it? And potentially, I'm assuming the A's are gone. How do you see it being better if you vote no on this? What's the upside to that? I think that's a hard question. It's a really hard answer. I don't know that there is an answer to that. And I'm also here to say, what are the other big plans for this area? What are the other big plans right now for the city of Oakland? I know they have things going on. Clearly, as I've paid more attention to the city council meetings, there are projects, inspiring projects around the city going on. But I also don't know that anybody is, with the history of the Oakland A's, 50 years, in the city. They wear the name of the city right on their jerseys. I don't know that there's anybody, more dedicated to the future of the A's that wants to do a project to benefit everybody. I don't see a lot of developments being planned for this area. Here's somebody that wants to do good. I'm going to pull up one more tweet here that I had yesterday because I feel like it really summed up what I've been trying to say about all of this. And I hate reading tweets, but it goes like this. Like, there are some finer points to iron out here in discussions and what the A's want, what the city wants, and getting both sides together, having them both be reasonable about this, right? The city also has to understand that this ballpark is not going to cure every single problem that they have. It's going to fix a lot of things. It's going to make, I truly believe it's going to make a lot of things better for a lot of people in a lot of different places, in a lot of ways. But I don't know that it's going to be the one catch-all solution to, hey, every problem that you have is gone. So the understanding of the difference between a great deal and the immaculate deal. But let's hope that some of these discussions, some of these sticking points have been ironed out in the last week or so since that informational meeting. But here's what I want to leave it with. Whatever is ultimately presented tomorrow by the city council, for the public, for the A's, for baseball fans, for residents of Oakland, for residents of West Oakland, Chinatown, Jack London Square, whatever is presented, it absolutely deserves to be as thoughtful, as ambitious, and as executable as the A's original idea. I hope whatever we see tomorrow is a step forward, not a step sideways, is a step forward in trying to make this happen, make this project happen. All right, hey, that does it for this video. Appreciate you watching. And we'll be watching this together. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video if you did. And I will talk to you soon.